Hi all, welcome to session 21 of Azure Data Factory. And in this session, we are going to look at new activity, which is append variable. So as the name suggests, append variable is used to append a new value in a variable. Make sure that your variable that you are using in this activity is of array type. Okay, so without wasting any further time, let's go and see the demo, and that way you will be able to understand better. Okay, so let me go to my Azure portal. And I'm going to open my Data Factory Studio. I'm going to create a new pipeline for this particular activity. That way, it will be easier for you to understand and do the practice. Fine. So here, if you see, we have four pipelines. So for append variable, let me create a new pipeline and I will give it the name PL append variable demo. Okay. So those who are familiar with Python, it's like appending a value to a Python list. Okay, so similar kind of thing we do when we are using append variable in Azure Data Factory. Okay, so in this particular pipeline, let me just create a variable first. Okay, since it is append variable, so I have to create a variable, and I'm going to say file array as name for my variable. Here, make sure your type is array. Okay, so just make sure that this particular data type is selected for your variable. Now I'm going to search for append variable, and here I'm going to say append file1.txt. Okay, I can't use append file1. Okay, then I'm going to copy it. Let me align it properly. Okay, here what I'm going to do, I'm going to say append file2. So in these two activities, what we are trying to do is we are trying to create an array with two elements. First element will be file1.txt, second element will be the file2.txt. So these will be the two files, and after that I am going to say I want to copy those files. So again, I'm going to just copy the same activity and I'm going to link. Okay, so copy data 1. So I'm going to say copy file 1, and here I'm going to say copy file 2. Okay, and if you want to align it perfectly, you can click on auto align, and you can click on view mode so that everything is looking nice and clean. Okay, now let's go here. In the setting, it is asking you to select the name. So as you can see, append variables only support adding to array type variables. So that is why before you even start working with append variable, make sure that variable that you are going to use here in append variable activity is of array type. Okay, now you click on file array and you just give the name. Okay, so I'm going to say it's file1.txt. Again, append file2, I'm going to say file2.txt. Okay, now let me for the moment deactivate both these activities. So the reason I'm deactivating these two, I just want to check whether the values that I am trying to append in file array variable is getting appended properly or not. Okay, so let me click on debug. Okay, for file2 I have to select file array, and here I have to give file2.txt. And remember, these two files we are using for last couple of sessions, so you can reuse the same file that you have already used for your session 20 or 19, and we should be good. Okay, so let me debug. Okay, as you can see, pipeline succeeded. Fine. All right. So it is getting appended properly. Now let me click here and I am going to say activate, and in the source I'm going to select source data set. Here I'm going to say source folder path. Let me go back to my data lake, data factory resource group. In the containers I am using source container, and I am going to say variable input as my directory input. Okay, and now I have to give the name of the file. Okay, so in order to give the name, we have to use the variable that we have defined. That means this variable file array. Okay, so it works very similar to the list of Python. Okay, so those who are not familiar with the list or Python, let me just do a small demo. So let me open my command prompt. Okay, so I am using Python interpreter here, Python REPL, and in this, if you define list as 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so when you do append variable in your data factory, basically you are doing l dot append, and if you want to append a new element, you just do l dot append, give the element, and if you say list, it is going to give you the new list. L dot append is going to add a new element at the end of the list. Okay, and if you want to access an element, you have to use something known as indexing. So zeroth is going to be the starting index, and n minus 1 is going to be the end index. So here if you see, we have 1 to 6, that means 0 to 5 is the length of this particular index. So 0 is going to give you the first element, and if I give L5 is going to give you last element. So similar to this, whatever I have just shown you here in Python, this is what we are trying to do using append variable in our ADF. Okay, there is no difference. So let me just go to my pipeline, and I'm going to say for this particular activity, I'm going to use variable file array, and I'm going to say I want to pick zeroth element. Okay, that means this is going to give you file1.txt, and in this sync, again I'm going to use same thing. I'm going to say sync here. In this sync, I'm going to use variable output as my folder, and again here what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my variable, and I'm going to say 0. Okay, so it is going to give you the first file name. Similarly, if I go to my second copy activity, let me activate it first, and I'm going to go into source, select source. I'm going to say source input. I think input variable input or input variable. Let me just check. Variable input. Variable input. And for the file name, I'm going to use my second file, that is first index. So in variable, I'm going to say file array. Last time we gave 0. In this time we are giving 1. And in this sync, I'm going to click on my data set, sync variable output, and here I'm going to pick my second variable, second file name from the array variable, that means first index. Okay, now let me validate everything. Okay, everything is looking good. Let me publish, and while it is publishing, Let me go back into my destination and let me delete this directory from our sync container. Okay, let's wait for the pipeline to get published, and after that we will run this pipeline. Okay, so pipeline has been published. Okay, fine. Let's add trigger. Let's click on trigger now. Pipeline has started executing. Okay, okay, so append file 1, append file 2 has successfully completed. Okay, this is also successful. Pipeline is successful. Now let me just refresh, and as you can see, file is present. Okay, but in this case you are not able to see the values. Okay, so values were passed to the copy activity, but if you want to see the value also, what you can do, let me give you a way to uh, see what the variable looks like after the append variable activity. Okay, so I'm going to call a set variable activity, and this set variable activity will trigger from append file 2. Okay, if append file 2 is succeeded, then it is going to trigger the set variable activity. And here I am going to say c file array. This is going to be the name of my set variable activity. We have already covered set variable activity, so you can go into my playlist and check what is set variable. Okay, set file c file array, and here what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new variable. Dummy file array is going to be the name of my variable, and I'm going to call it an array type. Make sure that this is array type because you are trying to store the array in this variable. Okay, so this should also be an array type. Confirm, and here what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my variable and I'm going to set this file array variable as a value for this. Okay, let me publish everything and let me delete my sync data. Okay, the publishing is complete. Let me trigger this now. View pipeline run. See file array. So as you can see, it is giving you an array. So how you can understand it is an array? In the value, if you see, you have a box bracket opening. You have element 1, element 2, that is index 0, index 1, and after that the box bracket is being closed. Similar to, very similar to what we have seen in our Python. So those who are familiar with Python, they can understand it as a list append method that we use to append a new variable, new value into the list. Okay, and those who are not familiar with Python, just follow this example. So the the second step, that is l dot append step, is what we are trying to do here with the append variable activity. Okay, so I hope this particular demo was useful, and with this we have covered our append variable activity as well. Okay, please make sure that whenever you are performing any kind of practice on Data Factory, your file size is small and you are basically trying to avoid cost. Okay, so as we are going to build this particular playlist, I'm going to get into more difficult pipelines, and we are going to combine all the activities that we have seen together. Next few sessions are going to be much more interesting because now we are going to start working with those activities that form the heart of any pipeline. Okay, so in Data Factory, those activities will be there in every pipeline. One or two will always be there in the pipeline. Okay, so I hope you like this session. Please give me the feedback, whatever you are thinking about my videos, and I will definitely try to work on it. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today, and let's meet in the next session.